Recording in progress.
The Money Time Podcast. It's about everything. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The time is 8 o'clock in the evening. It is the Money Time Podcast. I am not alone. Obviously, I'm with my co-host here, Mrs. Frelinghouse. Nikki, how are you today?
Hi everyone, I'm doing great. Trust you all are well.
Certainly hope everyone is well. Looking forward to the Q&A session. We really hope that people are slowly adjusting to the way we do things here, because we're running a very different podcast where we have a video and a radio. So it's audio and video. It's a hybrid one where we go radio and we go video. We are just trying to obviously make people get used to two types of medias that are available, but we certainly hope that they will adjust and learn how we do things. And it might not be a very long one because we don't have a lot of questions, but we do have questions and comments which we truly appreciate from whoever that has been able to listen in or watch our podcast, and they've started asking questions or just giving us their comments. We do have a voice note and a couple of questions. Of course, I think we have about 4 of these in total, which should make our show a very short one. But then with Nikki and too much information, you'll never know. It might go overboard. What's your take, Nikki, on this one? Nikki?
Really, we try and engage as best as we can with the viewers. So, don't give me a time limit here. Ask the questions and we take it from there.
All right. No, I'm just teasing here, but and I don't want you going short because of me. I know that you are just full of giving, and one of the precious things that people do not realize is information. A person who teaches how to fish than giving a fish is much better, so those are the lessons that comes from you, by the way. So for me, I'm looking at it from that angle that you are just open to giving information, and that is a very good thing. So please don't be limited by my silly comments. So
thanks, really.
Yes. So today we do have 3 questions and 1 voice note, maybe because these are pre-recorded, and maybe the long weekend must have taken away a lot of people. Coming to that, Nikki, because this long weekend had also a lot to do with spending, hey?
Definitely.
Maybe before we just go into these questions, maybe 2 minutes or 5 minutes on this one. In my thinking, because social media has a lot of information, and there's a lot that has been going on in terms of jokes, comments, but they were more about spending, funny enough, and the long weekend, and it for me, it tells me that people are very aware of what they should be doing but then there's jokes around it. And the question is, are they really taking this thing of spending wisely seriously? Because there's memes where they show a person staring, and then they saying, "This is the weekend staring at my salary." So it's like the weekend is looking forward on how are you going to spend your salary this weekend. And it was a very long one. From Thursday, most people didn't go to work on Friday. It's now it's a Wednesday, and yesterday, obviously, people were obviously going back to work. What are your thoughts on this one? Because honestly, there's a lot of information circulating around how people will be spending their weekend in terms of money and coming back not having money on a Tuesday.
So it's really, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is the tip that I gave around automating debit orders, right?
Yes.
Because those people who receive their salary during the weekend on the 28th, 29th, 30th, or even the 1st of May, these people, if they do not have automated debit orders, they were at the risk or vulnerable to overspending or not prioritizing their spending and spending it on the right things. Because it's a long weekend, everyone was in the long weekend vibe. And it's not uncommon for people who do not have automated debit orders for things like rent or their bonds or their cars or personal loans, credit cards, those type of priorities, to end up spending money on other things over the long weekend. And these are things that they've possibly not budgeted for from an entertainment perspective. And the next thing, they look at their salary, they're short to pay their rent, they're short to pay for electricity, they're short to pay for airtime, they're short to pay for a vehicle payment and other important priorities.
Yeah, no, this one, it has happened. I'm hoping that people are now starting to realize the importance of listening to these podcasts because and for me it's not just about winning people and having so many people listening, but it's about having more people getting information before and not doing the same repeating the same mistakes again and again. I believe that you spoken about this in our previous show when we were looking at stretching our rands and cents, and we spoke about prioritizing and automating debit orders. Now maybe one or two people can realize the importance of that because of this long weekend. Because you are right about this weekend. The long weekend was more about entertainment, and
Definitely.
which I believe that most people did not budget for. Why am I saying this? The first holiday was on a Thursday, and the Friday holiday was self-made by most people because, or maybe because of the schools and all that, but it was not an official one, so no one planned for that because not everyone would have guessed that it was going to be a long weekend. Some people created it because they took leave, and so it ended up being a very long one that was unplanned for, and a few people would have budgeted for that. And kudos to those who did manage to budget, and we certainly give them a clap of hands to say that you did very well by budgeting for such a weekend, because I can tell you people are very much aware how dangerous these weekends are because they have jokes around it in the social medias. They were calling it the big weekend, and it is because of, I don't think there will be any other longer weekend than this one this year.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
the big weekend has passed. We the next thing that will probably buzz like this is Black Friday. So
Oh, yes.
we, we are looking forward to that, and we are hoping that by that time we'll have a lot of people telling us that I had a plan for Black Friday. I had budgeted. This is what I knew I needed. If you follow us and you start, being in touch with the podcast, right now you can realize the need of what you really need for, and budget for that for Black Friday starting now, planning for it.
Definitely.
By the time Black Friday comes, you're good to go. Thank you so much, Nikki, on that. And I hope people are now realizing, because some they probably have that, no, the Time podcast, it is about everything, and it's so much relevant to our lives, to a point that it points out things that are really, really affecting us. So, Nikki, there is a question that is direct to you.
Yes.
The first question says, "Hi Nikki, I want to try online shopping and buying in bulk from Marco. I never tried online shopping before. Do you have any advice for me?"
Okay. I'll give a response here, but really I think you can also come in after I give a response, because I think this is also within your tech space as well.
Yes.
So listener, viewer, the most important thing if you have not tried online shopping before is to get someone you trust to help you with your first online shopping experience. Because these days, cybercrime is on the increase. So you've got to do it in a safe space, preferably at home. If you've got your own computer, if you are at one of the internet cafes, you've got to be very cautious there as well, because you are going to use your banking details to make payments. So the first thing I'd say is just be cautious, just be wary in terms of where you're having this done, and be extra cautious if this is taking place outside your home. If you're not tech savvy, ask someone who's got experience to assist you with this, someone who you can trust, as I've mentioned. Also, try buying for a smaller amount first, just to get a feel of the experience. You never know, you may live in an area where delivery may be quite challenging, or it may take longer for delivery to take place. You may also find that because it's your first online shopping experience, you look at a picture, you order something, and when it arrives, it may not be what you're looking for. That's the reason why I use the term experience. So get someone you trust to assist you with it. Instead of buying 10 items, just buy one or two items for a smaller amount, just so you can get a feel for the experience. And also be cautious in terms of sharing your bank details. If it's someone you trust, of course, trust them, but just be cautious about your bank details. And also don't automatically save your bank details on websites if you don't have to. And a lot of banks these days offer virtual cards, which allow you to make payments utilizing your virtual card. So if that is an option available by your bank, I suggest that you use it. That's all I can think of from my side. Sweli, would you like to come in and add anything that I may have forgotten or not mentioned?
No, I would like to come in. I think you've said enough, but I can just add on. You mentioned trust, and for me that is security. Even in the technology, we're looking at security. So there is obviously the physical security would be being indoors and doing this in a private space, and making sure that whoever is helping you, especially if you're not computer literate, or you maybe still don't understand a lot of things, have somebody that you really trust with your card, because most payments would require your debit card or your credit card. By the way, at first it used to be a credit card strictly, but nowadays you can do it with your debit card as well, which has got the card number, and then there's also the date, and then there's that is it VVC or VCC number? I'm not too sure. And then those things also, you must make sure that there's also an additional authentication. Like with banks, it's safer because if you have a bank in your app, as much as you process the transaction, it does not go immediately without you authorizing it via the app. So those are the things to note, that okay, if I'm doing a transaction, I must get something from my app that prompts me to approve this transaction. So that's the first thing. And then also you must look at how credible these sites are. Because you can't just shop online on any platform, because their security, they may be legit as a shop, but if they don't have good payment gateways, and then you see things like that you do not have not heard of not seen. Like for example, if you were to see Mlondo payment gateway, Mlondo is obviously our company, but if you were to see something like that, pay via Mlondo gateway, it's unheard of. We know PayPal, we know Stripe, there are those that are credible gateways. So you must also try and do your research around that, so that you don't find yourself paying with a gateway that is not reliable, and you end up in a lot of problems, because you can actually go wrong if you do not make the right decisions around online shopping. So this was a very good question, and it sounds very basic to say, how can this person be asking how can I go about shopping online? Those are the things that you need to look out for. But I like this one because there's too much going on around this, Nikki. When you order something, especially with clothes, you order something and it comes out differently from what you've ordered. I've actually seen a lot of Facebook posts around that, where a person orders a dress, and when it comes, that dress doesn't look exactly like the one that so you need to be careful. So even the products that you buy, be careful of what you decide to buy online. Most reliable things that you can get online, it's your gadgets and like your technology, electronic devices. But things like clothes, sometimes, unless you know for a fact that this is a shop that we all know that provides exactly what they show. But if you buy in some shop that you do not even have records of, but you just saw something nice, when it comes here, the quality, it might be the same product, but the quality may be poor because you just saw it from a picture. So those are the things that you need to be careful of. But thank you so much, Nikki, on that.
Thanks, Welly. You've raised some very valid points around online shopping, and that's the reason why I use the word experience, because the person needs to get the feel for the experience, because you are right, things are not often what they appear to look like on a website. And many a times have I ordered things and they arrive and you look at it and you look at the picture on the website and the item you're holding, even the color differs. So
Yes.
yeah, just be aware of such things.
Yes, and it's because these people, they also obviously create an image, so they can take the same dress, take a photo of it, and Photoshop everything to look glamorous and everything, but in reality, it's not the same. But yeah, I think our point there, it's clear, and I think people can relate to such. Okay, we can move to the next one. I think I'm gonna like this one. Are you able to share ideas for side hustles to make money?
Okay, this is another loaded question here. Interesting question. Thank you, viewer. This one's a difficult one because when it comes to side hustles, there's many ways to respond to this question. I often tell clients who ask me about ideas for side hustles is start off by doing what you love or what comes naturally to you. So if you are a gentleman and you love baking and baking cupcakes is your thing, then that could be your potential side hustle because it's something that you can do without ease. Something else to consider when thinking of side hustles is the capital or the cost required for your side hustle. I mean, if it's going to cost you millions of rands to put together a side hustle, then that definitely would not be a side hustle, right? A side hustle is generally something that is pretty inexpensive or something that may require capital, but the capital's not going to be such a huge amount whereby it will never be able to take off. So, yeah, quite a difficult question for me to respond to, but the most I can say from my side is do something that you love, do something that does not take up a lot of your time, and do something that does not require a very large amount from a capital outlay perspective. I mean, really, you and I have often discussed the concept of side hustles, and I'm certain we could, in the future, sometime put together an entire podcast just speaking about all the different side hustles people have going on that end. So I'm sorry I don't have a suitable response for this particular question, but just more guidance from my side.
Thank you, Nikki. And I'm saying this because I also feel the same way in terms of uh, not being able to give you ideas around a side hustle, and like mentioning that a side hustle would be selling cakes or no. But your guidance, I think, sums it up because we're talking side hustle, meaning that it's something that you are doing, and people can really make this confusion. Take what they are doing every day as a side hustle. There is that confusion, Nikki, where a person would be actively selling fat cakes every day and think that's a side hustle because maybe it's because they don't seem to be making enough money from it and they look at it as, no, this is just my side hustle and it's their main hustle. So side would be something that you are doing while you have something that you are focusing on a daily basis. So you can't be running a business for fat cakes every day and say that's a side hustle. And once you do that, you are going to limit your creativity, your potential based on your thinking that this is a side hustle. So we really need to and make people unpack that first to say your side hustle would be something that you are doing out of what you are, including what you are doing on a daily basis. But this is so. For example, on my site as an example, you are working every day with nails and maybe massage, something like that. But then you've got Avon products that you are selling, like you do it maybe
Avon Beauty Products.
yes. But your focus is you are running a salon for massage and nails. So that's your side hustle, the Avon product. But if you are selling Avon products on a daily basis, you can't regard that as your side hustle. That is your main hustle. And for me, it's about mentality towards this thing. Because immediately look at it as side hustle, like you said, Nick, you can't be looking for capital injections of 2 million for a side hustle. Then it means you're really doing well in life to be having a side hustle like that. Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett would be the guy that says, I need like $10 million to start this side hustle. A person like that. So you raised a very important point about the capital that you you really need to do it. So yes, I feel that in terms of ideas, I think the guidance that Nick has given us should give us ideas. But I go back to my point to say, look for problems around you and start providing solutions as your side hustle. And some of the side hustle, it doesn't really have to directly involve you. You are able to invest some capital into it and get other people to do it for you. And it becomes your side hustle as long as you are making sure that those who are doing it on your behalf are taken care of and you still carry on going into your day 9 to 5 jobs. Because the problem is this side hustle thing, this side hustle thing has been, I think, blown out of proportion because, you hear people who've got success stories saying, let's stop going for a 9 to 5 job and start building a legacy for your family. You can't announce that publicly. If everyone would leave their jobs tomorrow taking your advice, what would happen? So we need to be careful about this topic because some people are really defining side hustle as quitting your job and starting something and building a legacy. That's not a side hustle.
Really, on that note, by all means, we're not stopping people from quitting their jobs and starting their own businesses or
Yes.
whatever their aspirations are, and working on their legacy creation. But what I guess what's important to add there is to say that you need to plan. You just
Yes.
don't get up one day and decide, I hate my boss. I'm not happy about the environment that I work in. I don't like my colleagues. I'm just quitting. People have those thoughts, but if this is something that you're keen on in terms of going into self-employment or starting your own business, you've got to look at planning towards it, especially if you have financial commitments, financial responsibilities, and most importantly, if there are a few mouths who are dependent on you to feed them.
Yes, thank you, Nick, on that one. Because some people have been forced to be self-employed. Some people have planned to be self-employed, and then from self-employment you graduate and become maybe an entrepreneur or a business owner. But it can't be just a decision taken from what was said last week. That guy said made a lot of sense. I'm quitting my job and I'm starting my hustle. Not having a plan, because if you still have an income, monthly income, it means you are sitting on you've got an advantage to start planning for that. But let's not move away from the side hustle thing. In terms of sharing ideas, we do not have a lot to offer there, but we do have guidelines. And the reason why we don't have ideas for you in terms of specific ideas, it's because you'll end up doing something that you are not good at. For example, if I was to give you an idea as a side hustle, what if you don't have a passion for that? Say maybe I say start selling fat cakes. You know nothing about baking. You don't have passion for selling. Then you end up doing this because of the podcast, and then next thing you come back and say, you know what this Money Time podcast provides, it's not good as an advice. It's because so we are trying to avoid those things. So thank you, Nikki, on that one. The last question would be, are you able to share details of factory stores or outlets which sells designer label for less? I, I,
This is an interesting question. The first thing that comes to mind is, I'd say, Google it. You may pick up some info, but I can share something. My offices are based in the Sunning Hill area, and those of you who live in Johannesburg. And if you are aware of the area, very close to Sunninghill is Woodmead, and they have the Woodmead Shopping Center, and
Yes.
there's several buildings where they have a lot of different stores that offer branded goods for a lower price as opposed to the malls. So that's
Funny
the
enough,
only one I know of that I can share.
yeah, funny enough, over the long weekend, uh, my brother saw me wearing my old Levi jean, and he's like, "What? I haven't seen Levi in a long time, and we're not promoting any brands. Like we are not being paid for that. We just being honest." And he says, I've been wanting, and where did I refer him to? To Woodmead, because that's the only one I also know, and they do have branded items that are sold there, a couple of them. So yes, you can do that. It's but also you can Google for such information, and yeah, and it also depends what is less for you as a person, because somebody could be saying 4,000 nights is very less, and somebody would say 10,000 rands is very less. So I think also, as we answer this question, we need to also put it out there that live within your means. So when you say
Quite
less,
correct.
yeah, when you say less, you must understand less in which sense, according to Zweli's sense or my sense, because you know your pocket, in fact, by now you know your bank statement, because we've been encouraging people to go through their bank statement, so you know what's coming in and what's going out. So just make sure Uti, that the less it's according to your means, and yeah, don't please don't do not uh, get yourself,
Overspend.
yeah, get yourself into trouble, because you are trying, you thinking you are spending less, and that's according to me, because my less would be, I saw this phone for I saw an iPhone for 10,000 rands, the iPhone 12. It's very less. It is true, because when you look at the market price, but the question is, the other person, is it less for them according to their means? So those are the things that we're talking about. So yeah,
It's really just on that note, it's very important points that you've actually raised, which the listeners and viewers must be aware of. I have been, my optometrists are in Woodmead, so they within the Woodmead shopping center area. And they've just recently moved location, still within the shopping center, but in a different building. Not that I'm promoting for my optometrist spec savers here, but anyways, their previous location was very close to the Nike factory store there at Woodmead. And whenever I'd go there to go for my eye test or to pick up glasses or contacts, I'd always struggle to find parking because of the Nike store. The area would be very busy, and also it was not uncommon to find a long line of people standing outside waiting to get into the store.
huh,
And that always fascinated me about that particular Nike store there, if people are aware of the shopping center and the store that I'm speaking of.
yeah.
There was always a line.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm sure it gets full, and it's just about, information for me, because I also wouldn't have known had not somebody told me about this. But Nick, are you sure you don't own that store? You sound like you're promoting this Wood Meat Center.
I'm seriously not promoting the store. I promise. it's just always whenever I'd go to the optometrist, I'd look at the store and I think to myself, wow, this, and it's only at that particular store, hey? None of the other stores in the area, but just that particular store, which made me also, which also led me to think that the Nike brand's a very strong and a favored brand amongst a lot of South Africans.
No, it's definitely one of the favorites, and quality and also design wise. There's a lot of attributes that it carries, but then I think it's a story for another day, because what I
Yeah,
love
I
about.
think it sounds like you promoting this, Ozweli. Are you certain you don't have a Nike sponsorship that I'm unaware of?
No, I'm actually inspired by Nike. Soon you'll know what am I working on. I do have a local brand that wishes one day to be like a Nike brand, but it's all in good time. Maybe one day people will get to know about it, but definitely not a Nike ambassador. It's just that you are just inspired and you'd want to provide the same thing locally. Okay.
Definitely.
Yes, Nikki. So I'm gonna play the voice note. This is more of a comment from one of our listeners or our viewers who was listening to the show or watching the show, and this is what they had to say. And then we obviously this is the last thing. You'll have your comments, and we are wrapping up, Nikki. After this, let me just play the voice note. Hopefully, you'll hear it from your end.
Okay, great.
Hi, Nikki and Zweli. Thank you very much for the advice that you've given us. It's something that you've mentioned, that you've touched about exchanging of goods or, bartering. There was a time when I had a problem. If someone would come to me and say, take this pair of jeans, then when time is right, you'll get me something. I'm that kind of person who's very generous. When I give someone, I don't expect anything. And I had a problem with that. But immediately after you've mentioned that, I actually learned something that, if someone comes to you and says, I bought this pair of shoes, they don't fit me, but you can take them, later on get something from me. That's not being selfish. That's not being not generous, but it's being able to take care of your finances because of one, you budget, you plan for that. Now suddenly, because of maybe you don't want to use it at that time, or you can't use it at that time, it becomes difficult for you just to leave it, rather give to someone who needs it. So to me, that one was very, 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 very profound. And yeah, the lesson that I've learned is, we don't have to stick to the known brands, even the non-name brands or the in-house brands. They can also help to stretch your rents, because of the most important thing when you go and buy, it's not to overspend, but it's to stick within your budget. So I was very, very, very touched and happy and impressed with that. This is more than money laundering. I think we need that. If people were to listen to your show, I don't think we'll have money laundering, but people will start to realize that every time, if you take care of your finances, then you don't have to go and find yourself stealing from Peter to pay John. It's one of those things. But yeah, I really appreciate that, and I'm so looking forward to your next show with your question and answers. But I hope other viewers who are listening, they've got some insightful or good question to ask. So, but it's something that I've learned, and thank you very much. May this show continue, and we're so looking forward for the next episode. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
There you have it, Nikki. One of our first voice notes. Very heartwarming. Your thoughts on that?
Very heartwarming, and it just fills my heart with joy to hear that someone out there is listening and we've been able to make a difference. And I'm so appreciative that the listener has given us feedback around the bartering concept as well as swapping out brands to switch to household brands.
Yes, because as he's talking, I'm also learning something that, we tend to take our expectations too high when other people are acting in their own way based on their thinking or the way they do things. Like, being overly generous is one of the things that it's part of your archetypes, right? Which it's something we've already touched on under money coaching. So it's still relevant. And your over generosity makes you have expectations, and you can easily become a victim because you suddenly feel like, I do things for everyone and no one does anything for me. And when you are looking at maybe an individual who's acting out of thinking from a financial perspective to say, here's my brand new techies that I bought maybe a month ago, but for some reason they don't fit
Nike
me.
tackies.
Yes. Can you take them, and then maybe when you have time? I had to process that first. I had to process that one first. Now I'm definitely sure that there's a link between Nikki and Nike. Nike, Nikki. That makes sense. So all that was done was just to add a K to your name and an I at the end. Otherwise, this is your brain. Okay. So, and when you think about it, Nikki, a person is acting based on their thinking to say, okay, here's my Nike sneakers that are brand new. I haven't worn them. When you do have money, and it would happen amongst friends and family members. You can buy me something. They are not even specific to say you'll buy me something for the same amount, And you when you are the generous one, you're thinking, this guy, I do so much for him, or I've helped him so much. He wants me to pay for what he's giving me. And it can really go wrong if we do not understand where that person is mentally. Because they are just saying, okay, here I've spent money and I needed this, but right now I can't use it. But when you have time, you can buy me something else just to, reimburse me. Or just, to reimburse me based on the spending stat. But it doesn't have to be the exact value. So we may take it wrong, and this is what the listener is trying to show. So it's a lesson that can go a long way for a lot of people, So we're really happy to be part of the change in the community. And, this voice note has just made me realize that we can do more, and we're definitely going to do more to try and get the information out there. And thank you very much, Nikki, for, the consistency and the resilience to make this work. And it is turning out to be slowly but surely at touching people's life.
Thanks for the opportunity, Zweli. Thank you to the viewers and listeners for taking the time out to listen to us. Zweli and I are both passionate about bringing about change to our communities, bringing about change to the country, and just making it a better country for us all to live in. So thank you for your time, Zweli. I look forward to our next podcast.
Certainly looking forward to our next podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, and good evening and goodbye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Recording stopped.
the Money Time Podcast. It's about everything.